The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network. He's a member of wrestling royalty. His repertoire and skills in the ring are unmatched. He's always been loyal, trustworthy, and has a work ethic that is unparalleled. He's been bashed by his peers, by the media, and even by the fans. But he's living proof that our worst days do not define us, and neither can other people. Welcome to Rebuilding the Foundation with Teddy Hart.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Rebuilding the Foundation with Teddy Hart, and I am your host, Rad Rob Francois, joined by the Canadian legend. Well, actually, he's a dual citizen. He's a American legend. Canadian American? I don't know, whatever. We're already off to some shit here. Welcome, the one and only, the incomparable, my good friend Teddy Hart. What's going on, brother?
Just excited about getting this the second episode started. I thought the episode 1 we did was awesome, and a nice flow to it, and what I expected.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't talk for 45 minutes straight and I can get a word in.
Yeah, fuck it, I know.
So you already got me swearing. We're a minute and a half in, and
yeah, that's from episode 1. That's from the excitement. It's an electricity. It's an electricity hearing Teddy Hart, and when I listen, people seem to tell me it seems like when people talk to me, they tell me a story, and it's their best version of that story, and they feel like that story now will live on because I tell that story to other people, because I love telling other people's stories to my friends. That's how I introduce people.
Listening to you talk, I number one, I love Canadian accents. I don't know why. I've always had an affinity for Canada, and my cousin had grandparents that lived in Moncton, New Brunswick. Actually, Shediac, New Brunswick. So I was able to go to Canada, once a year in the summertime, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I didn't like the PST and the GST. That I could have done without that, but the fact that my American money was worth more in Canada just made me feel like like a big shot. But in any event, listening to you talk, and because of the family you're from, and kind of gravelly, you have in your voice, you sound like your late grandfather Stu. Sometimes like, hey, let me just take you down to the dungeon here, and teach you a couple holds, eh? I can't do it, Stu. So many people have a good stew. I don't have a good stew.
Yeah, they do. I've heard some good stews. Harry does a pretty good one, I think, and Brett does a pretty good one.
Jim Ross has a pretty good stew as well. But we'll get into a lot of that. We'll talk about your family, I'm sure, as the shows go on. But we do have a special guest I want to bring in. Hopefully his phone's work. He's in a shitty iPhone. I'm an Android guy, so I'm not an Apple guy. But he is a friend of yours, and I literally have no idea what he does. He just wanted to be on the podcast, and we'll talk to anybody. So let's bring in your good friend Raul. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you all for having me. I'm honored. Pleasure to meet you all. Good evening.
It's a pleasure to meet you as well. And hopefully you figured out your technical difficulties on that horrible iPhone.
I'm right here, live, loud and clear.
We were talking off air, and we had a pretty good conversation going on. So Teddy's like, "Yeah, man, just hit record." So that's what we're doing now. So what I find funny is you're a wrestling fan, Raul, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you ever heard of the Hart family. Like, I know you know Teddy through whatever, and like he's a good friend of yours. But I mean, I don't think you understand the significance of like his family legacy.
No, I do. I know a lot about as a child growing up watching WWE, WWF, the whole wrestling, genre, the niche. It's not a niche; it's a brand. It's part of an American icon and legacy. The Bret Hart family, his uncle. So very familiar.
I was just busting your balls, and you totally sold it, but that's fine.
It's usually women who do that, but it's interesting that men do it too. But go on.
Yeah, Teddy told me that you were a joker, so I think this is going to be a pretty interesting show. Teddy, when did you? How did you first meet Raul?
it's been about, I think, 2 years now. I saw a guy. I used to go to a few different steakhouses, like on a routine basis. You never know who you're going to meet, but you always meet interesting people, especially if you're sitting at the bar and I'm wearing one of my tracksuits and I got my jewelry on and I have a girl and he's got a girl with him and we start talking and Raul's talking about I think he met or knew somebody or had worked with Shaquille O'Neal in some capacity for something, and so we're talking and I said, well, that's funny because Young Bucks, which are good friends of mine, and I had him on text. I was texting him, had Shaquille O'Neal on AEW. So I asked him how he was, and they said he was awesome. He was so much fun, and he wanted to do so much. He really loved wrestling, and he wanted to do some stuff. And so I texted. That Raul had a text, and so we were showing the text back and forth, and like stuff that had been said. That how rare you have two different guys, especially that have access to anyone that even's met Shaq, but just through a text. And the fact that they were in the ring with him, like within like a two, whatever, I don't know when it was, the AEW stuff with Shaq. I don't know how long ago it was, but maybe it was like a year and a half ago or something like that. But it was the conversation starter, and then I just noticed the type of guy. Really nice and good sense of humor, and understood sarcasm, and he had a respect among all the different people we went. You go through a few places and you see the guy, and it's like a VIP guy, and everyone knows him. And so you spend a lot of money in there at all the different places, and you go there all the time because it's like Cheers. Those environments, like the bar Cheers. Like if you're one of their friends, like you've been there 20 times. The 4 or 5 people that have been there, they're the ones that work there. Those jobs aren't changing out. You keep one of those jobs. If you got a job like that, you keep those jobs in those high-end restaurants, right? So you see the same guy all the time. It's like Raul always gets the lobster bisque. When I go to Eddie V's, I always get the lobster bisque. He gets lobster bisque. We know that menu well. So he'll order a couple things. I'll order a couple things. And then it's rare that you see like 2 gangsters exchanging food. But if you have 2 guys that are not, homophobic or weird or whatever, they're brothers, and so he's like, oh, here cuts a piece off he's got like a tenderloin and something else, and I didn't want a whole steak. I just wanted I didn't want to even say it. He ends up cutting it like he read my mind and cuts it. He's like, here, you feed it, feeds the guy here. You can eat off his fork if you wanted to. He doesn't, not necessarily you have to. He'll cut a piece and here it is. But I'm just saying that type of trust and relaxation amongst you. Give me the weird eye.
That sounds totally gay to me. I'm just saying.
Well, at the same time, that's what's weird is the way he articulates and explains it with such detail.
No, he does.
What's even more weird is I don't know why I'm aroused.
This is the Teddy Hart. Look at. This is the
Raul.
Hold on, Teddy. Hold on. This I told you, like in the trailer. This is the Teddy Hart they don't want you to see. They don't want you to see the happy-go-lucky, dude making jokes and being fun. They want you to see the sad, depressed, maniac that he is. So it's the whole reason why we're doing the show. I didn't mean to interrupt. It just sparked in my head. I had to throw it in there.
No, all good. We're all grown up now, so it's all good.
Well, I'm not.
So there's like some $40 drink or something that Raul gets that's got a smoke inside of it, so they smoke it. I don't know what it was, but what is the drink, Raul, you ordered? I forget what is it?
It's the Eddie V smoked old fashioned. They char it, smoke it, they do the whole thing. They really go out of their way. I don't know why they do it. Maybe it's me. It probably is because it's me, but go on.
So I saw him ordering this drink, which I know he'd been there a lot if he knew about this drink and stuff. So I said, I want to try one of those, So we had a couple drinks together and we're talking more just about life. And you realize that the field of his expertise and who he knows is unbelievable because he's a real guy. Like, hey, what's your job that allows you to, because if you're not a drug dealer or an undercover cop, or if you're not working, there's only certain jobs that you can have where you're in and you can go and have the flexibility of a schedule like me or Raul had. So I'm like, after we met like every day for like a week at different places, and I was like, no one had that kind of flexibility with their time. And I was filming a documentary or looking for new people for my documentary, expecting the Peacock thing to be decent, or some publicity, and I'll get the spinoff, or whatever, at least. Yeah. But so I was like, so Raul's a guy I was thinking right away would be good for TV and a good character and a part of my entourage because it's got to be real. It's got to be Raul really has a bodyguard he goes around with sometimes, or he has a driver or chauffeur because he doesn't drink and drive. And if he wants to have a drink, he drinks and goes to work and runs $1 million company or $1 billion companies or whatever he does. To
a couple of billion, but yeah.
Yeah, so he'll discuss what he does and who he is and his expertise and how weird. He's not a wrestling guy, but he knew enough about wrestling to appreciate that I was a humble guy, that it didn't matter if I was Bret Hart's nephew or not. If you're a prick, you're a prick. And if you stink like shit, you stink like shit. Then that's not going to be something that I'm going to let you off the hook about because you're famous or you knew somebody famous. The mark of a man is who you are at that time and place, and if you're present and accountable for your future by keeping the relationship about the love and the respect. And that's something that people they're either sloppy, they're not trained properly, they don't understand the commitment of a long-term friendship, of what it means to. It's not like you're on and off. I don't think Raul will ever have a bad day or would get into an argument. One time he told me you need to shut up and listen. No, not listen. You need to shut. You're such a good talker. You give way too many words to people that are too ignorant and they don't even have an understanding or capacity to hear your wisdom. So, and I said, thank you. I said, I was hoping somebody that I actually loved, that I didn't have prompted, benefiting off me, like leeching off of my rainwater. So I have all this runoff and people just eat off the runoff and they just entertain themselves by thinking that I don't know when I have a guy blowing smoke up my ass or telling me what I want to hear. So Raul gave me the advice of to be quiet. And I thought that was great advice for someone to give me because I wanted to hear it myself. And I was talking a certain way during a certain time to see if Raul would give me the common sense. If you're a friend in common sense, here's something that's going to help you. If he's trying to kiss my ass, he's not going to tell me something that I want to know to benefit me, to make me better, because he doesn't want me to get any better. He's just going to let me stay the same. We'll sometimes sing about wisdom and friendship as you learn things from other people's style and how they approach things. And you have an open mind philosophy to wisdom, which is experiencing someone else's wisdom when they tell you in a compressed version of what they do or how they got there, because they can't give you their whole life story right away. But you can hear certain things about certain subjects, and that sets you up to have a curiosity to continue the friendship. It's the curiosity of what's this going to turn into, and where can we go with being honest and being funny and making an hour available once a week so we can have this conversation where Raul can tell you about what he does for a living. It's an interesting job, and what he's, just because I never knew it even existed. I didn't know I didn't know a freight operator, how important that guy was, until I lived at a freight operator's house who had a $1 million freight business, and he worked from home answering all these different calls. And he said he still liked to do that part of the job because it was fun and it kept him active. But he started the whole thing, and he's like, I started off as just this guy doing the dispatch, and then I built up all the way to this where now I have all these people working for me, and I still do the dispatch sometimes. And I was like, okay, so. Again, how do you learn about other people? Shut up and listen to them.
Which obviously you never do, but in any event.
No. See, that's the thing you don't get about me. That's the mistake of the Teddy Hart character. They never realize I'm active at first. After that, I'm a listener, man. I want to learn about things. I want to get smarter. You can't get smarter when you're talking. I can only talk about what I know, which is a certain amount of information. I get it out there. And we get a dialogue at a comfort level, Rob. If I'm quiet and you're like awkward and you're like, man, that Teddy Hart just doesn't say much. I don't know if I can build a podcast off him. I don't know if he's got charisma. I don't know if he's reliable. And I'm like, listen, this is the worst time of my life on the social media, basically. But at the same time, it's $1 billion worth of publicity, at least a few million. It could turn into $1 billion worth of publicity because I don't know what being, accused of all these terrible things really does besides stick in your skin. Because my thing is, God knows, the cops know, and I'm free. So those are things that I have to concentrate on. And a lot of my friends that are in the real world, they don't care what the wrestling world says. It's a small little group of people. So I want to hear from people that are not in the wrestling world, that, and then I want to film people like me and Raul in the real world, and you watch how we treat people. And you watch how we live our lives, and you watch the success we have by forecasting things that I was going to do on our podcast. And then when we're in Dubai, a year later, and Raul and I are sitting in Beirut, and we're eating a shawarma, or we're eating the best chicken ever, and we're sitting there talking about how the Muslim religion works compared to the Christian religion, and that Jesus is still considered important in these other religions. So if because we have a dispute about religion, it's like, I don't believe it's a dispute. It's that I believe in every religion has a certain set of rules and guidelines, and that there's a right to let everyone have their own religion and believe in whatever they say, as long as they're not hurting anybody. So that's like, and again, Raul, you're Muslim, right?
Yeah.
So, and we're Christians. So now that makes us even closer to me, because I like a little lesson about religion. So when I ask people from another religion, I try to take some of the things they say, if they're practical and I can apply them. Like, I don't eat pork because Muslims told me 20 years ago to not eat it. And so when I also had a lot of Jewish friends in kashrut law, they explained to me what kashrut law was and how they do these things and why the process is like this. So, and it was funny, I watched later on when I first learned about kashrut law, it was an interesting subject. And then I watched what's the movie with Keanu Reeves where he's a lawyer and he has the Devil's Advocate. So he has a client and he gets the client off. Do you remember he gets
it's the one where the devil wants him to bang the system?
Yeah, exactly. So, but he gets the client off, the Rastafarian guy, for killing the goats because he uses kashrut law. He studies old law and he ends up applying. I remember hearing that and thinking about, so eating a certain way and a religion reason for it is something they gave me as a piece of information from their history books or from what they believed in. So I believe in letting people convince you with fact and information that you can practically apply to your future, and then watch the progression, good or bad, and then you can justly make an opinion if that diet pill worked or if that guy's information was accurate because his story, I know the winning numbers. Okay, well, sure, and then 6 months later you didn't win or you did win. It's proof in the pudding, and following people's advice and listening to their story, the education and information you get is going to give you a ticket for a certain type of success. And that's, to me, the message of, you guys have never watched the Teddy Hart, because I got probation for 6 years for a mistake. It's cost me my life. So all the stuff you had videotaped for all those years, which was me living the life, I've never got back to living my life.
Yeah.
I've never got to go back to, so the beginning stages of me living my life and going back to a steakhouse and being able to eat a steak once a week, let alone every day, or to be able to go to a place and have a guy like Raul go, hey, let's chat. And you walk outside and I got $100,000 Maserati all bedazzled out there. And Raul's got $100,000 fucking access to whatever cars he wants to drive because he's on that level. So there's levels of shit. Like when you're on a level, you can either have a car or you have the ability to have any car you want, because there's people out there that literally have clubs where you can have the cars and drive anybody's car in that group because every guy's the same. They all have enough money to have 2 or 3 if they wanted to, but they wouldn't tie up that type of money when they could tie up the type of money in something else and still have those cars because they join a club, or they're eating. Like Raul has a club that he joins for food now. And he was telling me how the food is absolutely phenomenal and it's all locally sourced and it's all private, done through a chef, and like they deliver it to your house. It's never frozen, and it's like all these different cuisines from around the world that they
organic, healthy, yeah.
Yeah, and what's it called?
It's nationally available across the country. It's called Cook Unity, like community.
Yeah.
Everything from steak, lobster, shrimp, Indonesian, Vietnamese, Moroccan, Middle Eastern, Arabian, Indian food, French, Italian. I mean, if only I've thought of this, like, changed my life. I don't have to ever figure out what's for dinner, what's for lunch. I literally take it out the fridge, 2 minutes microwave. Oh my God.
And he was saying it's better than or equal to these 5-star restaurants that we're used to eating at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so, like, if it's like that,
you
good.
go out to eat, maybe like 4 to 5 out of 10 times you're satisfied. This program, I'm satisfied 9 out of 10 times. Like, I'm happy. Like breakfast, lunch, dinner. You don't have to. Like,
what are you getting? What would you get for breakfast, Raul, from this menu? What would be your gourmet breakfast? Do they have an eggs Benedict? Do they have
Yeah, they have the basics for breakfast. It's predominantly about the lunch and dinner is what it's about.
Yeah.
Breakfast isn't available in all locations, but it's nationally renowned, state to state, coast to coast. Why am I sponsoring them? They should be paying me for this.
Yeah, right?
It's that good. Like, I'm like Gordon Ramsay level in terms of like hospitality, culinary arts, fine dining, food critic, what have you. I want to get with Gordon. I want to talk to him. We got to have him make his recipe, like Gordon's Kitchen in your house. Like, he's got 7 different TV shows across 4 networks. I met the CFO. Yeah, kind of a wise guy, whatever. Long and short, community, get it, do it, change your life. Facts.
When you're talking about trying to get to Gordon Ramsay, talked into that someone on that level. Now, the Raul met the CFO. Was that in Chicago?
Yes.
At one of his restaurants there, he was there, and he said because he was astounded and giving me, because I knew about him already. I was a big fan, but just saying how smart that guy is, and a little history on where he came from, and so there's these ghost kitchens now that you can pay basically restaurants to make your food for you, or to make your menu and
your white label, yeah,
and white label, whatever it is. So now you can. So I've been doing some delivery. And like I say, I like to drive around the city, and I have a new Maserati, so I like to drive around the city and do delivery sometimes. But they'll come out and I got $100,000 car and I'm doing delivery, and they look at it and they're like, "Fuck!" They're like, "Nice car," and I'm like, "Yeah." Or I'll do the McDonald's and I'll be in the same window 6 times that night, and they'll see me every time I come in the car, and they're like, "Man, it's like," and I got 2 iPads in the car, and I got a third screen, so like 3 screens going at the same time. I'm like watching a movie while she's sitting, because you got to sit in those lineups for a while sometimes, right? Like, so I'm just trying to stay busy, but the people that I'm working with, I always see these weird orders pop up, and I'm like, there's no restaurant open at 4 in the morning that sells cheesecake or is called this, but it's one of those people that are selling through Denny's, or they're selling through what was the other one they were selling through? It was Fridays, I think. So Friday had a weird name.
Fridays is a bunch of them. It's a ghost kitchen.
So I was getting these
Chili's, everybody has it. Yeah.
When you show up at these restaurants, they don't say the name of the restaurant unless you look at the fine print. So we're looking around, and I've been down that street 7 times. They're like, there's no restaurant called this, and it's not open. And then I realized it's the Chili's. They have the secret, and you got to go to the side door. And I was like, oh, okay, so when Raul was telling me about the ghost kitchen, point of this was, he thought the ghost kitchen idea could be turned into the Gordon Ramsay thing, where you could have the Gordon Ramsay kitchen. They could provide that menu, so we could order off of his menu and have a chef of his critiquing and level make it for us, so we could order it anywhere we wanted to here, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, because that's a menu that I'd like to see, and I think it can be recreated by chefs, and I can order it right now at my house without having to go to that restaurant, or the restaurant's not available in that area.
You don't gotta leave home. Gordon's making you dinner at your house.
Yeah, the recipe is what makes it so good, I think, and the recipe could be passed on. It's like a certain level chef, I think, has enough skill to basically, once you have the recipe, it's the same for everybody. It's the same ingredients.
Yeah. I mean, earlier days when we were, 80s babies, 90s babies for Rad, 60s babies, we get it, Rad, it's okay. Long and short, they didn't even have Hot Pockets back then, right? 90s babies, Hot Pockets, ooh, right? Nowadays, okay, come on, we're really... That's cute. That's adorable. So the point is, 90s babies, Hot Pockets, 2000 Hot Pockets. Nowadays, you get a 5-star Michelin chef cooked meal at your house delivered. Oh my God!
I don't know where to segue from that, but I mean that's a great advertisement for the company. And getting back to the ghost kitchen thing, that. DoorDash has exclusive stuff on that too, with all the ghost kitchens on it.
It's very comparable to Uber Eats, local restaurants. You're paying more. You're paying from restaurants as if you're going out, but you're ordering room service. I can get room service from Chili's, Denny's, whatever I want. Uber Eats, DoorDash, same concept. This here, however, is a entirely different concept. Healthier. You get a whole week supply. Delivered to your door with freezer packs, healthy, organic. It's not the same thing. You can't compare it. But anyway,
I can see the difference of the two, and the convenience of it. If we're spending $60 a day, sometimes $80 a day eating out. I remember I spent $100 every single day eating out for 4 months straight. At least it was.
And there's no temptation. Well, I want to get a couple of shots of alcohol. That it's not there.
Me and Marcel had a bill at one time. It was like probably $8,000 that month for eating out, and that was us. And we took a few people for dinner a few times. So just 1 or 2 guests at 3 times that month. But that dinner was $600. Each one. So that's $1,800 for 3 of those that week, because you don't even realize you're taking somebody out, but you're doing business, you're meeting people, if they get a drink too, then you think of, usually, like I say, it depends on who you're with. Usually most of my friends, they drink expensive stuff, right? So they want certain types of drinks at these certain types of restaurants, and it's a high profile restaurant. And the respect you get from meeting these different people, go back to how I met Raul, we ate at a lot of the same restaurants. So a compliment he's giving, and I'm curious, as I say, about certain things. Eating is one of them. So I said, when I go back to Raul, I want to try some of those meals, because if it's that good there, I want to see if it's that good here. So if it should be similar, but it's different chefs, right? And it's different. It's sourced differently, but I'm hoping.
But it's the same quality and product.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So that's my curiosity now, is to check the quality of the food in Dallas, order some of the stuff online or whatever the system is, see how it tastes, and then try it in Florida and see the difference if it's consistent. Because you don't know.
Consistency is success, and they have the consistency.
And that's what I like about meeting people that are smart. It's the same thing. You don't make an opinion of something until you've tried it, or you've met them and you've hung out with them long enough to actually be intelligent and say, yeah, I've met that guy for months and he was a good guy, or I just never got a good vibe from that guy. Well, how many times did you meet him? Well, I met him for 30 seconds once. It's like, well, then, you acted like you've known him for years, and you don't. Well, I talked to other people that met him, and I'm like, well, that's hearsay. And that goes back to information in general. I want to hear information from people that are walking, talking, and doing it, not theories. If it's a theory, then it's a hypothetical. That's fine. When we have that talk about Marvel comics and Disney and flying cars and stuff, but when we're talking about real, and it's something that's real, I want to know if you're doing it yourself. I think, hey, someone said try apple cider vinegar for a month. This is going to happen. It's like, okay, well, we're going to all try apple cider vinegar for 2 days or 3 days and see if you like it. Because after 3 days, I was like, well, it tastes kind of crazy. But if someone did it for 30 days and they told me about it, I want to hear the truth about it, or how it works, right? And so it's like the people that actually do the tests, or the people that have actually done it and say it, their opinion means something. Like, how do you gauge hard work? Well, how long have you been married for? You say 18 years. Mm-hmm. Raul said he's been in relationships for 18 years. So the work that goes into a relationship is tremendous, and that's something Raul and you have in common, because you guys will talk about, because you've been in. We envy you. That's a hard thing to do. I wish I could have been in a relationship for 18 years that worked, because that's what we were looking for.
Hold on, he's laughing. Raul's laughing. Why are you laughing about that?
I'm nodding my head left to right, not up and down. Left to right. No, I've had 18 years of long-term commitment, loyalty, devotion, relationship experiences across 3 women, and I'm only 38. That is a big deal in terms of meaningfulness in life, which money, education can buy. Only experience can. And I find it so demeaningful and rude when people that haven't had more than a year to 2 tell me about, talk to me about marital advice. Are you fucking, excuse my French, are you fucking kidding me? Like, do you understand what a lifetime commitment and devotion to one partner forever and ever takes? For you to critique and tell me, you're going to educate me? You have little to no experience. The audacity, the gall of you. Oh, anyway, long and short, it's a serious thing. And for being 38, look at it 2 ways. Majority of people, if you had to flip a coin, is either the first part of your adult life or the latter, 40 plus or 40 and younger. For me, it was 40 and younger. I'm turning 39 next month. God bless. Most people don't make it that. A lot of people don't make it that long. Most that are fortunate make it to their 50s, 60s, etc. Long and short, perhaps the thought process and perspective is, well, I had the long-term marital stuff. I got that out of the way in the earlier part of my adult life. Now 40 plus, I can be single the rest of my life. It's fine. I'm overqualified to be a loving, caring husband. I'm the most eligible singular bachelor in America right now. Facts. Long and short, it's not about that. It's about what makes sense in the reality of the world today. Is it attainable? Is it possible? Is it not? It's not. I've already been there, done that. Why get married again after 2 divorces? I don't have to. But there's an actual innate longing that's compelling me to want to, and that's not something that I can deny. It's undeniable.
And then that goes to the respect of the guy that's been able to do it for 18 years. We have an epiphany and understanding, affiliation for that, because you did it. So, because that's like, I always admire
that is success. If I die tomorrow, look back in hindsight, God asked me, how was your life? I was content. I had it. I did it. Thank you. Yeah. I succeeded. That is success.
And then you hold on to it. So how did you originally meet your wife, Rob?
I mean, yeah. Rob, what?
Is your name Rob, Raul? I mean, I know.
I heard Raul. R&R.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I get my wife is the same way. Actually, anyway, and I'm just.
Good.
I'm a little bit paler than you are too. So I mean, it happens.
Good. 10. I live in Florida. Go on.
I'm only 46, by the way. Just to put it on the record. I know I got grays and all that.
Young for your age. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
You, Santa. Okay.
So I met my wife in 1998 in an AOL chat room. Now, most kids nowadays won't even know what AOL was. But we met in Atlanta Braves chat room because I was a big Braves mark when they went on their run in the early 90s.
Oh, let me say this. So back then, was it Glavin?
Yeah, Glavin, Maddox, Smoltz, Avery.
Maddox, Smoltz, yeah.
Yeah. So we just struck up a conversation, and we just, kept, we would instant message each other and all that, and just kind of built up a friendship. And it's weird because, I mean, this is years before, like, Match.com and all that stuff. Like, this is, like, the infancy of the internet, right? So I'd like to say that we're one of the original, internet success stories. But I was living in Connecticut. That's where I was born and raised, just north of Hartford. And she was from Middle Tennessee, which is where we are now. And her parents raised her strict fundamentalist Baptist. So when she tells them that she met this guy who's 5 years older than her on AOL, they're like, no way. There's no way that you're going to be dating this guy or even like bringing him down here, whatever. Like, he could be an axe murderer for all you know. You don't even know. Yeah. But I end up actually going down to meet her. Yeah, I met her that winter in 98 and, stayed in the area for a week, and we hit it off. And, I would say the rest is history, but I mean, we did break up for a time, like 2003-ish. And I was a horrible person back then. It was before I got saved. I ended up cheating on her, and she lived here for a while and moved back. But for whatever reason, we stayed in touch after that. And she moved back up to Connecticut in 2004, and we got married in 2005. So known her and dated her since 98, married since 05. And, every relationship has their ups and downs. I mean, it's not all sunshine and rainbows every day. But for the most part, she is my soulmate. She's my best friend. Teddy can attest, like, we were coming up with ideas for the intro to the show, and she thought the original idea that I had was a little bit long and a little bit negative, and she just threw a couple ideas, and boom, like, we have a new intro. So that's just the kind of the gelling and the teamwork that we have just from knowing each other for 20-something years. But anyway, long story short, she is the best part of me, and we decided to have a kid almost 5 years ago, which I never wanted kids because I'm an only child myself, and I like having my freedom. I like being able to come and go as I please and just go to a concert, go on vacation, don't have to worry about a babysitter, all that. But now that I have a daughter who is ridiculously smart, way smarter than I ever was at 4 years old.
Smart.
Dude, like, she is so smart. And the things she picks up on are just ridiculous. She memorizes every single logo. She knows letters but doesn't know words yet, but you can drive by anything. She'll be like, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. All right, we do eat a lot, but I mean, still, she memorizes everything, and she's so smart. And I kind of wish I would have done it years ago, because, like, I missed out on all those years of not having a child because I was selfish. But anyway, long story even longer.
He wanted a little girl. That was Raul's. When Raul told me about stuff, he told me when we first started talking originally, we were about going to Colombia and about meeting girls in different places, and about maybe that the American woman for what I'm looking for just doesn't exist anymore, and that we're probably better off going to Russia or Ukraine or Europe, Czechoslovakia, a few different places that I heard that if you go there and you have your shit together and you're a clean-cut, slick guy who's got manners and some chivalry, and you have some money and or the ability to move them back if you can, because I mean they're going to play poker with you for a bit, and then it's cards on the table. You got to show who you are, and if you found someone you found and you're happy with her, I know that Raul and I wanted to have a daughter. He wanted to have a daughter. Something I heard him say as a guy that can have almost anything he wants because he earned it by doing the work.
Yeah,
and he his own time. He has his own business and he has his own time, and he's the boss. So he has a certain schedule. So one thing we had in common was we both wanted to have another kid. I wanted to have a daughter, but we were both actively looking for a wife, but not at all looking for a wife at all. We go out and meet more women than anybody, and they're best friends of ours. They're our buddies. They love us.
Yeah.
We're not there trying to slime on them. They know if they wanted to do something. It's like a cat catches mice. Yeah, I catch mice, but a lot of cats don't kill the mice. They catch the mice to play with it and hang out with it, and they let the mouse go after. It's like, I'm not there to kill I'm not there to kill a mouse. If the mouse wants to come play with me, there's a reason for it, because I trust the cat. We could be that cat that kills the mouse, if you know what I mean. And that's, I guess, taking advantage of girls that would think, here's some rich guys or powerful guys, and they got money, cars, and we don't do drugs, so they're not partying with us like that. And they're basically only allowed to do, the smart stuff that I think is going to the gym, and here's a meal, enjoy filet mignon, and enjoy a drink, and then go hang out at the pool and go get a massage, and then come back and tell me how hard your life is. And these people do this for 4 or 5 days around us, and all of a sudden they're like, man, and then you want to go do something else, and they're like, and then you see the jealousy, and then you see the lifestyle we live. You don't know what it took for Raul to get to that level, so he had the time. You don't know how many years I wrestled and how many deals I made, so I had 5 years off, or I had some years off, and I had cash to just do what I wanted, and I was able to make some smart decisions and keep some really good friends during, I think, like the rebuilding of the world after COVID. It's like when you start meeting people after COVID, it's like it means more. It's like we came out of something crazy, and then so the friendships after COVID, I remember thinking, like, there's a certain, I value them more for some reason, or I'm like, I guess because I'd almost lost it. You learn to, you don't appreciate it until it's gone or almost gone.
Yeah.
So it was like the freedom was almost gone, and all the good relationships that I could have lost because of the jail and all these things. I'm like, when I rebuild my group of friends this time, I want to be very careful with making sure I listen to their story, and I understand the hard work that went in, and I understand the wisdom and reasoning, because you're only strong as the weakest link. So if you have weak links on your team because you didn't listen to their story long enough to vet them, and it's like, and if you have a reputation based on a bogus world of professional wrestling that has no validity in the real world, then most of these guys never really knew me, and if they did know me, those people are all silent. Because it's like they don't need to say anything at all. I haven't ever asked anyone to defend me. If they had something to say, trust me, there'd be all these people saying stuff. But there's one person saying something in wrestling, one hater, or there's one person saying something, well, that's my ex-wife. Well, why is that? Well, then let me explain why.
Yeah.
Okay, then cool. So now you get the reason why. Well, that makes sense. How does he have all these friends that are successful business people? Because he wasn't wrestling every day, guys. The wrestling I did was wrestling at a 5-star restaurant with a doctor and a lawyer and 2 guys that invented some patent for, some thing that they called the translator. And there was a guy who patented the translator on a phone, some kind of Google patent on a translator, and his family had made that. And then we were there with his family, and he was telling us how they made this invention. And it was just like, and you'd be surprised like how much that made, or how much you got paid for an app. And I met a couple guys that made apps, and they made millions of dollars on it, like on an app. And you're sitting there with them, and you don't know what they have at first,
right?
But you're just sitting there talking to them, and they're nice people, and they're cool. And it's like, I didn't know enough about Raul or what he did until probably like 2 weeks in, and then he starts to discuss where he's been. He's been to London, he's been here, he's been to Dubai. Been to Dubai twice, Raul?
Yeah.
So, he's been to Dubai, and then he's lived in the States, and he's got a beautiful place, and he doesn't ever drink and drive. Well, that's expensive. Every time you get an Uber, a chauffeur. Well, he's like, yeah, but that's because it's way more expensive. It's way smarter. It's going to be expensive if I screw up. I'm either going to screw up and have to spend it, or I can spend it and be safe. What would you do if you're smart?
Right.
And I said, yeah, well, and he's got the understanding too that it takes money to make smart decisions. Yeah, sometimes, but also there's a time and place when you have to just be consistent for those years, when that's the test. And if you get through those things, then you get to be a boss, or you get to have the consistency, and you get to have the trust of the people that control the money and they control the time. And then you start to have more flexibility with the decisions you actually make in your life. Because if you realize, once you're stuck in the 9-to-5 world, and I've been in it just a little bit on and off, and man, I take my hat off to the people that can do that job day in, day out without killing people and going home and killing their family and doing crazy shit. Dude, I can't imagine doing some jobs and for 10 years, 7 years. I'm like, man, and so when they do it, I ask them, please take pride in that job and understanding that people that are blessed to have freedom understand your hard work now, because I had to go do some of it, and then you have a whole new understanding. And then so when Raul just didn't have it handed to him. It wasn't just handed to him. He worked very hard to get to this level, but if you don't listen to 20 years of stories that he's going to give you, maybe 10, and it's going to be like a 3-month period of time because you're busy and you're distracted and you're not a good listener, and then you forget all the information. Even though you're listening, you don't remember it. So it's like nice that 6 months later when you're talking and you realize the guy listened to everything you said, and you remember all the conversations when you first started talking. And then you go from there, and then it's like, my words and my stories are valued, they're remembered, they're treasured. He lives through them, and he's reiterating back to me stuff to educate me on how to talk in the future, because I know enough about you that, you like, he smokes or he does drink, or I know enough about you that you've been married for 18 years, you got divorced once or separated once for this, and like you became born again, and this is the time and place. And then 6 months later we're on the podcast, and imagine the guy doesn't remember anything about you, he's too busy talking, and then he doesn't want to listen, he doesn't want to recall and remember your stuff, because it's like, people are trained not to listen after 5 seconds or 10 seconds. To me, if you're going to talk, you're a better listener than talker. So if I fucking talk for a living, I'm like, well, then you better listen for a living. So then you learn, there's a Dale Carnegie course, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And guys in wrestling would go, what the hell? Ted never tried to do that in wrestling. I said, I wasn't trying to win friends in wrestling, and I wasn't trying to influence people, except that I did. I influenced a ton of people that this is the type of guy I was in wrestling. And I convinced the whole world of people to think I was crazy and I do nuts stuff. Well, what's crazy? You never know what I'm going to do next. Which means I might jump off the top ropes to the floor. I might climb the cage, and I might pull the fire alarm. If I can keep you on your toes in the wrestling world, that's my job, is to create a character. Well, crazy, unpredictable, all these things it's the best one. And then if it's safe and reliable, and that's the move, and that's the expertise of the landing, because you're taking another guy's life and you're risking hurting that poor gentleman. And then you go right back to being a good person. It's like, guys, I want to be the best person possible because I'm taking such great pride in what I do. I'm risking my own life for you in the audience to clap and be happy, and I'm risking the other guy's life basically to say, if you do it to me, I'll do it to you. Well, guess what, guys? All these things I'm doing to other guys, do you know how easy they're going to do it to me? And if you're hurting guys, guess what they're going to do back to you? They're going to hurt you, right? So there's a respect of all these years of like that. A lot of guys have never hurt me either, and I've never hurt them. And it goes to the expertise of the training and the trainer and the preparation for this. And to have all that forgotten about and taken away, and it's for people never to hear the story, that's sad to me. But then for me also, it kills me meeting the people that I've met where Raul met me, and because I was Bret Hart's nephew, it had a little shine. It meant a little something. But then because I was actually nice after, it was like the blessing of being that guy meant something, because I didn't take it as look how cool I am. I took it as look how blessed I am, and look how blessed you are. And then the fact that we got together, I know God's on our team. And no matter what they do to you, God's going to pull you through it. And it's going to be that universal force where they bring you and me and Raul together. And the message is about, eventually I want a panel where I want like 5 guys on the panel, and we talk to people about certain things, or we debate certain things. And right now it's just I want some explanations, blueprints, or background of who you are, and how we all talk. That's why I said just bring them on. Like, I don't know what the podcast is about today.
Nothing really. Just bullshit. Yeah.
That's why I liked it today, because I didn't want to be on where I have a list of things and I'm trying to talk about to go over it. But eventually, then we've done enough of them, or we know that the daily news types of things, and we go over a couple things, because now we start to get used to what a podcast would be like. Because have you ever done a podcast, Raul?
Yeah, I've done a few before.
So you've done, and you talk well, right? So you have a good voice, and you communicate for a living. That's what your sales expertise is. So, and same thing with you. Like when I listen to you after like 5 minutes, I'm like, man, he's a smart guy. He can talk, and he can carry this. He can carry the show. I can carry the show. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, come on.
So, and the fact that you gave me a chance told me the type of intelligence you are, because people that are smart want to learn, and people that are smart want the truth. And there's a reason the truth is tried, tested, and true, it's called. And that's called, it's facts proven that that's the results, and that's the best way to get it done. There's a truth to every type of thing out there, right? And it's the importance of, if you're being taken down in life by the improper information and slander and defamation of character, and it's not the truth, it's my justice to fix that problem and to tell the truth, and then to go back and get into my world where it's all based on the truth of getting the best information from the sources of, so I'm a walking, talking battery or a magnet to try to get information and stories, because I'm curious. You can learn so much from so many different people. So the more you get, and the more time from worthy people, obviously you have to be more selective of who you talk to. But in order to get on this podcast, you have to be a winner in my eyes, and you have to have a job that you're doing well at. That's what you'll know. Almost every person I have on the podcast has got something I can say they did well. They did something really good. And that this is what I was like happy to say, like, this guy was one of the best car salesmen I've ever seen. He sold more cars than anybody I've ever heard of. This guy named Dwayne, I know, who I want to have on the podcast. Or Raul was such a nice guy and so smart that when I asked him about all these different places he'd been to, every one of those places, he had total recall of the restaurants he went to, the hotels he stayed at, the roads he was on. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's been around the world enough to understand the wrestling schedule. Because very few guys can understand or appreciate when you talk about travel. Or like, I was in the airport in London at Heathrow for like 19 hours. I didn't know how big it was. I didn't know you could buy a Rolex watch there, like all these different. I didn't know this. Like the airport was like, it blew my mind the first time I was there. And it's like, oh well, you've been there too, so you have an understanding, a similarity in certain types of things. So you want to get other people and then tell a story of a world accomplished podcast. It's about world travel, and it's about the world. Because I don't know what, and then to get people like, Rob, when's the last time, have you been to Mexico before?
I have not.
So you traveling, have you been to Canada?
Yeah, I've been to Canada several times.
Oh, you told me that, I'm sorry, before when you were a kid though, right? Have you been to Canada recently?
Not since I was 18, and I went to Montreal and hit St. Catherine Street and hit the strip joints because I could drink at 18. And that was fun. That was a good time. But that's the last time I've been to Canada.
One thing I like retreats. So I'm hoping that like once or twice a year, the guys that are doing the podcast, we get together and we have like a 3-day or 4-day retreat somewhere where we all get together. And if it's just that one time we talked on the podcast, but I'm only having people on that I think are going to be, the 5 people that are the panel guys kind of. And then after that, I don't know what direction I want to go in. Yeah. I just want to make sure you're having fun, Rob. You know what I mean? You're having fun and then you feel that the flow's going well.
I'm having a blast so far. I mean, we're only 2 episodes in, and it's funny. I've talked to you in the last week or so more than I've actually talked to my wife. So, just fucking with you. I'm not, but it is.
Thanks for listening to Rebuilding the Foundation with Teddy Hart. To keep up with the latest happenings with Teddy, follow him on Instagram at official Teddy Hart. You can also email us at rebuildingthefoundationpodcast@gmail.com. Join us next time for Rebuilding the Foundation with Teddy Hart, right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.